Good lord, look at the size of this thing. This might be one of the most incredible pieces of shark footage that I've ever seen. I mean, if that's not a Megalodon, I don't know what is. Of course, it's not actually a meg, but the Megalodon connection isn't really that far off. This is a blunt-nosed sixgill, an ancient shark species that was swimming around before most dinosaurs even came about, so that's pretty cool. This video was shared to YouTube by OceanX, who managed to tag the monster from a submersible. This was the first time that had ever been done. Now, until this moment, they were only able to tag them by bringing them to the surface first. Next up, we've got an incredible sighting of a gigantic sixgill shark that was caught on video. Footage shared by Hurl's Sub Ops on YouTube showcases a dive off the coast of Molokai, Hawaii. Now, take note of the two red dots that they're shining on the shark. Those are used to determine the length of the animal. The dots are 6 inches apart, and while that may not seem like a lot at first, again, put it into perspective here. Those dots take up just a small fraction of the shark's full length. This behemoth was estimated to be around 18 feet long, 3 times the height of an average adult. And if you think that's impressive, just look at how thick and muscular the shark is. The parts of the video where the shark is up close is pretty unsettling, but it looks even more impressive as it swims away. It really puts its full size into perspective. Take a look. I'm just very glad that we live on land. Coming in next is an image that caused quite a stir amongst shark fanatics, the infamous Megalodon Lives photo. This image was featured in a Megalodon documentary on the Discovery Channel. It appears to show a ginormous shark gliding through the water off the coast of South Africa. Now, at first glance, it looks so big you'd probably think it was a whale. Some people even thought it could be 2 sharks swimming together, but no, that's not the case. This is one animal. The distance between the fin and the mass of the shark closer to the camera apparently measures in at 47 feet. Not sure how true that is, but I mean, if that is the case, then that's nuts. To put that into context, that's almost the length of a sperm whale. Just imagine swimming in the ocean and seeing something that colossal swimming alongside you, and then finding out it's a shark. A shark like that may make you want to rethink your next beach outing. Now let's talk about deep blue. Deep blue is considered one of the largest great white sharks ever recorded, measuring in at 20 feet and weighing over 4,400 pounds. Sounds like a terrifying beast of an animal, but as it turns out, this shark is a gentle giant of sorts, known for being very calm and friendly. To humans anyway. I'm sure the fish she eats don't feel the same way about her. In a now famous video captured off the coast of Mexico in 2014, Deep Blue is seen gracefully swimming near researchers in Hawaii, and it's a pretty breathtaking video. Watching this massive creature glide through the water is kind of mesmerizing. The footage went viral in 2015. What's even more amazing than Deep Blue herself is how chill the people in the cage are. And even crazier, there's a diver on top of the cage who just watches as this real-life Jaws monster swims right past his face. And he watches her like she's just a dolphin. It is worth noting again that Deep Blue has never been known to attack humans, but there's a first time for everything. Take a look at this beast. This is a rather famous photo of a creature dubbed the Albany shark. Just terrifying, especially because we have people right beside it to put it into perspective. They're a little further away from the camera than the shark is, but not by much. This shark could easily fit like 3 or 4 of those people in its mouth. Caught in 1975 by Colin Ossel, who was working for the fisheries department in Albany, this shark weighed in at a jaw-dropping 3,300 pounds. Ossel was no strange to shark fishing. He'd caught plenty of great whites before, but this one was obviously on a whole other level. Catching this thing was no easy task either, as you can imagine. Ossel used a wire snare to reel in the beast, and it took him about half an hour to get it out of the water. At one point, the shark was so strong it lifted the boat up out of the water at a nearly 15-degree angle. Now, why was he hunting the shark in the first place? Well, the goal was to thin out their population to help the local seal population grow. Speaking of massive sized shark photos though, take a look at this one here. This jaw-dropping image was captured by a surfer during a competition near San Clemente during the San Onofre Surf Club's annual event. A massive great white shark showed up. Photographer Jordan Anist snapped the perfect shot just as a surfer rode a wave, completely oblivious to this massive monster shark breaching the water behind him. At first, Anist mistook the giant creature for a dolphin, thinking to himself like, damn, it's a big dolphin, and then proceeded to have a heart attack. He didn't. I would have though. Despite how terrifying this thing is, the shark does have a bit of a happy presence about it, doesn't it? It's the way the fins are turned up like someone just showed up with a cake. The giant shark footage. This video shows a large ripple in the water as a large creature moves below the surface. Then the camera pans down to reveal an enormous shark cruising through the water. It's hard to believe how truly massive it is. The camera just keeps panning and panning across this massive shark body, effortlessly gliding through the water. What's nuts is that this shark creates such a powerful ripple in the water, and its fin isn't even poking out of the top. The ripple looks like it was caused by the boat, not a creature. Without seeing the shark at the end, that's probably what you'd think. Megalodon swims beside U-boats. This is a pretty dubious one, but it's got a really entertaining backstory, so I figured I'd include. Supposedly, this is a megalodon, or at least a very large shark, swimming alongside German U-boats. The image showed up in a very controversial documentary about the megalodon. The eerie image shows two U-boats navigating the waters off Cape Town, South Africa, with a massive fin rising above the surface nearby. And according to the claims, it's a colossal 64-foot creature, which would be on the higher end of the scale of a megalodon's length. Now, most experts have determined that this image is doctored, but if this photo were genuine and had somehow been hidden for decades, it would completely alter our understanding of marine life. The Mariana Trench Meg. This footage, shared by Deep Sea Oddities on YouTube, was recorded by a Japanese marine biology study about a mile underwater in the Mariana Trench. And holy, this may be the most frightening looking shark I've ever seen, probably. Not because of its size, although don't worry, that is very much a factor here, but its appearance. This thing looks like a zombie shark. It's an undead shark. And it gets so close to the camera too, like too close. Hard not to cringe a little as it gets up to the camera. The footage shows this shark moving toward a baited cage, and it really puts things into perspective. The creature just dwarfs it. It certainly doesn't look like it's been missing any meals. Next up, we have footage of a gigantic shark swimming beside a research vessel, captured on TikTok in 2021 by marine biodiversity student Alex Albrecht. The clip shows a massive shark gliding alongside the ship off the coast of Massachusetts. When you compare the size of the shark to the students watching from the safety of the ship, it becomes clear just how gigantic this creature is and how glad you are that these students are in the safety of a ship. Albrecht filmed the shark from way up in the ship's mast as well, so the scale is even more impressive than it appears on camera. You can hear someone jokingly asking if it's a megalodon, and honestly, I'm not even sure if they were joking. And finally, we have the legendary Hornet Breach footage, which is an absolute must-see for any shark fan. This is a video of a truly enormous great white shark as it launches itself out of the water. So a crew had set out to sea, with one of them being towed in a cage submerged underwater. Very brave man. Then they baited the water and waited for the show to begin. And suddenly, the shark appears, and the sheer size of it is just breathtaking. After grabbing the bait, it breaches the surface, showing its full power and gargantuan presence. Australian news anchors were left speechless after this footage aired. One stated, "I'm never going in the water again." And if you ever hear an Aussie say they're never going to the beach or the water because of a giant shark, just listen to them, you know that shark's got to be big. Back in 2014, Australian researchers set out on a project to tag and monitor great white sharks along the country's southern coast. One particular shark, measuring about 9 feet long, was tagged and released, and what happened next was alarming, to say the least. Just months after this shark was set free, the tracking device they attached to the shark washed ashore, and when they analyzed the data, researchers discovered this sudden drastic temperature increase, along with a rapid plunge to depths of around 1900 feet. The sudden temperature shift and plunge seemed to show that the shark had been ingested by a larger predator, because the predator's body temperature would have, of course, been higher than the surrounding water. Again, this shark was 9 feet long, and you just don't usually think of great whites being eaten. So what had been big and bad enough to do this? Well, some scientists started to wonder if it was a much larger shark that also liked eating other sharks. Well, it turns out it's not unheard of. Great whites have been known to eat each other. We don't know for sure what attacked this poor shark, but what we do know is it must have been quite the monster. There's a legend about a creature lurking in the coastal waters of Baja California known as El Demonio Negro, or the Black Demon, described as an enormous black shark ranging anywhere from 20 to 60 feet long and almost all black. It's said to be incredibly aggressive, and according to some fishermen, the thing is strong enough to capsize boats. One of the most famous accounts came from a fisherman named Eric Mack in 2008. While sailing in the Sea of Cortez, Mack reported coming across this gigantic black shark that matched the descriptions of the Black Demon. He described the creature as having a towering tail fin that stuck 5 feet out of the water, which isn't something you see with any known shark species in the area. Zane Grey was an American author. He was also a hardcore big game fisherman who spent years chasing monsters in the ocean. In his 1931 book, Tales of Tahitian Waters, Grey talks about his fishing trips to the South Pacific in the late 20s and early 30s, and the stuff he saw out there is the kind of thing that still makes people wonder what's really lurking in the deep. He wrote about sharks that were easily over 50 feet long and marlins so massive they snapped lines like thread. He described hooking a marlin over 1,000 pounds only to have it torn apart by a giant shark as he tried to bring it to shore. Grey described some of these sharks as unlike anything he'd seen before. Way too big, way too aggressive, not acting like your average great white or tiger shark. Some were so huge they couldn't even be brought close to the boat. While Grey never said Megalodon specifically, it's not hard to see why people today connect the dots. If anyone had a close brush with something prehistoric, it just might have been him. In April 1977, a Japanese fishing trawler called the Zio Maru was operating off the coast of New Zealand when the crew hauled up this bizarre decaying carcass from about 1,000 feet underwater. The thing was huge, about 33 feet long. The crew took measurements, photos, and even some samples before tossing the carcass back into the ocean because it was starting to rot and sink up the ship. The photos show, well, something. To a lot of folks, it looks like they'd caught a giant dinosaur. The discovery made headlines in Japan. Some scientists thought it was just a decomposed basking shark, since those can take on a similar appearance when their flesh starts breaking down. The jaw, gills, and fins rot off first, leaving that weird long neck look. But others weren't convinced and pointed to the creature's size and shape as being way off from a basking shark. To this day, people still argue about what the crew really pulled up. The official explanation leans toward the basking shark theory, but looking at these photos, it's not hard to see why some people still believe they dredged up a relic from the prehistoric past. This footage came from a Japanese deep sea research mission, and it was shared online by a channel called Deep Sea Oddities. What they were doing was sending down a camera rig with a baited cage to study deep sea life around a mile underwater, which is already terrifying enough on its own. But then this thing shows up. It collides into frame and it just looks wrong. Like a shark, but not as well. It's almost got this decayed look to it. Almost like it shouldn't be alive, but somehow is. That's probably why a lot of people started calling it a zombie shark. And then it gets way too close to the camera, trying to decide whether it's food or not, I guess. You can actually see some gnarly features, like the way its jaw hangs or the roughness of the skin and those eyes. Oh, those eyes. This is how I imagine the black demon we talked about earlier looking. And yeah, based on the size of the bait cage, this thing was no lightweight. It's a big, solid predator. Some folks say it's a sleeper shark or some deep sea variant, which are known to look kind of bizarre sometimes, but others are convinced that it's something else entirely. Either way, it's a reminder that we've explored more of the moon than we have of our own ocean, and stuff like this kind of makes me okay with keeping it that way. Alright, so this one's a personal favorite, the USS Stein incident. If you've never heard of it, buckle up. This happened back in 1978. The Stein was a US Navy destroyer escort, out at sea floating along, and suddenly the sonar system freaks out. They head back to dock to check it out, and that's when things get really strange. They take a look at the sonar dome, the part of the ship under the waterline, right at the front, and it's just trashed. There are these huge gashes, some 4 feet long, all over the dome's surface, not like scratches from hitting debris. This thing got attacked. They find what looked like teeth or claws embedded in the dome, big ones. One marine biologist said it looked like a giant squid, but he also admitted that these claws or teeth were way bigger than anything he'd ever seen before. Then another Navy guy suggests it could be from some other massive undiscovered species. Till this day, nobody knows what attacked the ship that day. Maybe it was a massive shark, like prehistoric massive, like Megalodon massive. This next story comes from Reddit user extreme1_NA, who tells of a terrifying encounter with a shark that made them quit surfing altogether. In 2008, I was surfing about 100 meters offshore near Childers Cove in Mapunga, Australia, when I noticed a seal breached the surface about 50 meters away in a panic. This told me I was not alone in the water and should probably get out ASAP. I immediately started to make my way towards shore when I spotted the shark's fin cruising past. It was a great white, I estimated to be between 3 to 4 meters long. I pulled my arms in and watched as it swam by, only a few feet under the surface. I didn't have much room on my board. I made it back to shore after a few minutes, slowly paddling with barely my fingertips in the water, and after I put my board on the roof of my car, I lit up a smoke to calm my nerves while watching the waves. The next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. The shark had grabbed a seal, and all I saw was red, foamy water and the shark going ape. This happened in approximately the same spot I'd seen the shark not 10 minutes before. Needless to say, I haven't gone out surfing since that close call. I understand it's always a risk in the ocean, but now I have a wife and 2 kids. I prefer to keep my feet on solid ground and spend my time fishing instead. In 2019, a group of divers off the coast of Oahu ran into something huge. They were out there to observe tiger sharks feeding on a whale carcass when a much bigger creature showed up, something so massive it made the tiger sharks look small. It was a female great white shark, later nicknamed Howley Girl, and she was estimated to be around 20 feet long and over 5,000 pounds. Big even for a great white. We're talking about something in the same size range as the infamous deep blue here, one of the biggest great whites ever filmed. Howley Girl wasn't shy either. She came in close, really close. One diver, Ocean Ramsey, who has to have one of the most perfect names for a diver I've ever heard, even touched this shark. The shark just glided past like a submarine. It was covered in old scars, clearly a veteran of the deep ocean, and what made this encounter even more amazing though was how rare it is to see a great white of this size in Hawaiian waters. Most of them stick to cooler areas, so this was kinda out of the ordinary. This photo alone is enough to give you pause. The thing that makes the image so unsettling is the people standing just a few feet away from it. It's not like there's some tiny kids. These are fully grown adults, and the shark still dwarfs them. You could line up a few of them end to end and still have room to spare in that mouth. This image was captured in 1975, and the guy behind the catch was Colin Oslo, who worked with the Fisheries Department in Albany, Western Australia. He was part of a government program to reduce shark numbers to help grow the local seal population. The plan wasn't exactly subtle, but it was effective. What nobody expected though was for this thing to show up. This shark came in at around 3,300 pounds, also had to use a heavy-duty wire snare, and even with that, the fight took about 30 minutes. At one point, the shark thrashed so hard it lifted the front of the boat clean out of the water, like a scene from Jaws.
At number 10 is the terrifying deep sea footage. Now, the degree to which you'll be impressed with this video depends on how you decide to define your scale. So let's be clear. Beast depicted here in this footage is absolutely a shark and is absolutely real, with its very distinguishing gills and pectoral fins. The question is though, is this your run-of-the-mill great white? Or is it a megalodon? That all depends on the size of the fishing cage behind it. See, if we're to presume this to be a standard sized cage at about 10 feet, that would make the shark in front of it just shy of 30 feet wide. And since the shark is so enormous that we never get its entire body within the confines of the frame at once, we can make some estimates concerning the width to length ratio and determine that the shark here is at least 60 feet in length. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but I'm new here at Amazing Top 10. So if you're enjoying the video so far and wouldn't mind seeing this face more often, you can support the channel, and me by extension, by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing Top 10, and ringing that notification bell. It helps us out a lot, and I personally would really appreciate it. Number 9, caught on satellite. Thanks to satellite technology, we've managed to map out 100% of the ocean floor, despite only having actually explored less than 5% of it. I say we as if I were involved personally. I'm like the nerdy equivalent of a sports fan. Anyways, aerial imagery has allowed scientists to make all sorts of discoveries. So is it that surprising for a behemoth as big as the Megalodon to turn up on something like Google Earth? And as a matter of fact, there was a Megalodon candidate spotted through satellites swimming along the Persian Gulf, which is a Mediterranean Sea in Western Asia, which is essentially an extension of the Indian Ocean between the Arabian Peninsula and Iran. One second, let me just add those to the list of places I will never go swimming. Discovered via Google Earth satellite imagery by researchers from the University of British Columbia, the consensus today is that this shark is between 50 and 70 feet in length. However, the initial calculations gave an estimated range of 80 to 100 feet. Now, it's tough to say what kind of shark this is exactly, as we only have a single image to go off of, but the shape and scale definitely fit the bill, along with the fact that the Megalodon was known to have existed in any ocean environment except for the polar ones, with the vast majority of Megalodon fossils having been discovered in coastal areas and bordering most oceans. Well, I guess I'll be swimming with the penguins from now on. At number 8 is the Brazilian coastline footage. In November of 2012, footage was released from the perspective of a rescue helicopter off the coastline of Brazil. And while the team conducting the rescue were oblivious at the time, technicians reviewing the video after the fact discovered that the team wasn't alone in the ocean that day. If you look carefully in the upper right hand corner of the video as it progresses, you'll notice an absolutely enormous shadow of an uncannily shark-like silhouette moving at an incredible speed below the surface of the ocean. And though it's hard to say for certain, we can use the lifeboat in the video as a reference to deduce that the shark depicted here is at least 60 feet long. At number 7 is the drone footage. Now, while this video isn't associated with any particular reputable research institute or anything like that, it's certainly among the most impressive Megalodon videos I've ever seen on account of the sheer size, clarity of the thing depicted. The video begins with a bird's eye view of a group of 3 children with boogie boards swimming in the ocean. Remember boogie boards? I still have mine. Not that I'll ever be using it again. So the kid on the orange boogie board furthest to the right notices the shadow of something enormous swimming beneath them. The video replays, giving us a wider zoomed out perspective where the absolutely gargantuan shark is revealed in full. Using the boogie boards as reference, it's estimated that this Goliath clocks in at roughly 95 feet long. And if that's truly the case, then this sighting quite possibly depicts evidence of the largest shark ever discovered. Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, thank you. Now, some have tried to call this thing a basking shark or a whale shark on account of its size, but you don't need a degree in marine biology to rule those out. Whale sharks are coated in distinct white spots, whereas basking sharks distinguish themselves with their wide heads, something that whale sharks are also known for. But this shark here ain't got no spots, and its head shape is more in line with that of a great white. So what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. At number 6 is the Mexican black demon. There's a tale that beckons us from the waters of the Sea of Cortez, a realm nestled between the Baja California Peninsula and Mexico's mainland. It's a place where reality blurs with the unknown, as this area is home to some of the strangest and most diverse range of aquatic giants. Welcome to the domain of the Mexican black demon, a name that sends shivers down to the spines of even the most weathered seafarers. Picture this, a creature reminiscent of the iconic great white shark, yet draped in an unsettling shroud of murky hues, as if the darkness of the abyss itself has taken form. Now, don't get me wrong, we all know that great whites aren't exactly teddy bears, but the black demon takes it up a notch. Local legends have whispered for years, painting a portrait of a colossal menace lurking beneath the waves. Reporters suggest that it's longer than your average blue whale, stretching up to a staggering 80 feet. Some eager minds point to the possibility of an undiscovered species, or perhaps an oversized great white. Now, I'm a YouTuber, not a marine biologist, so take this with a grain of salt, but given that great whites and megalodons are closely related, choose to say that it ain't a bit of both. Brave souls have embarked on quests to unravel the secrets of this aquatic enigma, but like grains of sand slipping through your fingers, the black demon remains elusive. Sightings are rarer than winning a lottery ticket, leaving us tantalizingly close to the edge of discovery, yet frustratingly distant from grasping its true nature. Could it be a relic of prehistoric times, a survivor from a forgotten epoch, or perhaps a brand new chapter in the oceanic saga of evolution? At number 5 is the New Zealand cave dive. New Zealand too? Come on, man. So this alleged megalith of a shark was discovered in a diving cave off the coast of New Zealand. Now, sharks and diving caves are terrifying in their own right, but finding a shark inside of a diving cave? But this ain't just any run-of-the-mill cave-dwelling shark, as the recovered photo depicts what looks to be an insanely massive shark with the vast majority of its body extending beyond the frame. Now, admittedly, it's a bit hard to see how any shark, let alone a freaking megalodon, could fit within the confines of a dive cave. At number 4 is the coelacanth. For those of you who still doubt the modern existence of a sea creature said to have gone extinct millions of years ago, allow me to introduce you to the coelacanth. This unique bottom-dwelling fish with lengths reaching upwards of 6 feet and weights exceeding 200 pounds belonged to an ancient lineage dating back to 360 million years ago. Boasting an impressive size and a lifespan comparable to that of a megalodon, at least 60 years, this enormous fish was thought to have gone extinct over 65 million years ago, and yet it was discovered alive and well as early as 1938. So given the sheer scale of the ocean, along with the fact the megalodon was thought to have gone extinct much more recently, only 3.5 million years ago compared to 65, it may only be a matter of time before the megalodon is rediscovered in the modern age. One can only hope not. At number 3, the megalodon attack in Cape Town rips a boat in half. Alright, I'll be honest with you. Admittedly, the next 3 entries are a bit of a cop-out, but they're super intriguing nonetheless. You see, during Shark Week, the Discovery Channel decided to air a mockumentary series about the definitive existence of the megalodon in the modern age, titled The Monster Shark Lives. But the Discovery Channel failed to include any sort of disclaimer that what was depicted in the film was actually all fake. As a matter of fact, the Discovery Channel casted actors as professionals in marine biology, and all the events in the film were presented as actually being real, leading this quote-unquote educational show to becoming the most viewed Shark Week show to date, generating countless clips that would go on to be perceived as factual to this very day. One such clip depicts the found footage of passengers on a fishing boat, and after some time a thunderous boom can be heard, followed by the sounds of muffled screams and rushing water, accompanied by imagery of the boat being flooded as it flips upside down. The initial story was that a whale had breached over the top of the boat. Upon further investigation of the wreckage by a diving team, they discovered that the boat had been chomped in half. There were no survivors, and the bodies of the fishermen were never found. Well, I'm sure the actors are fine. At number 2, a whale is bitten in half. Our second clip from the Monster Shark Lives docuseries opens with the paid actor, marine biologist Colin Drake, going after some handheld video footage that looks really HD for a homemade movie shot in 2009. As the father and son enjoy some fishing off the coast, they spot what looks to be the remains of a beached whale, only the entire lower half of the whale appears to have been bitten clean off. Well, imagine a battle of the titans, a colossal whale grappling with the behemoth of a megalodon. A battle of epic proportions, a dance of primal forces that leaves us on the edges of our seats, but alas, this tale took a somber turn. In this watery arena, victory belongs to the megalodon. Its massive jaws close around the portion of the whale's tail, a painful reminder of the harsh reality of nature's unforgiving hierarchy. And at number 1 is the oil rig video. Sometimes the most unexpected observers can uncover the most remarkable secrets. You might think that the vast expanse of the ocean is constantly under surveillance by the vigilant gaze of scientists, government officials, and marine experts, right? Well, in this case, according to what I already described as the very reputable Discovery Channel, it was actually an 8-year-old prodigy from Chile who discovered something truly out of the ordinary beneath the waves. Now, for context, let's quickly go over ocean surveillance. You see, scientists and government agencies have studied the ocean floor with high-tech cameras at key locations, giving us a glimpse into the mysterious world beneath the surface. We're talking about a network of underwater cameras nestled around scientific sites and oil rigs, some of which have live feeds accessible to anyone with a curious itch. So back to our young Chilean protagonist. This sharp-eyed kid was casually monitoring one of these live feeds when he suddenly stumbled upon a sight that sent shivers down marine experts' spines. Behold, a shadowy fin of disastrous proportions cutting through the water with an almost prehistoric elegance. Now the experts, being the skeptics that they are, were quick to assert that there's currently no concrete proof of the legendary Megalodon prowling our modern day oceans. Yet the fin they encountered on camera was massive. Cue the synchronized video feeds and the math wizards doing their thing. By comparing angles and distances, they sized up this enigmatic creature, revealing an astonishing estimation, a staggering 62 feet in length, give or take. Now that's longer than a school bus, my friends. Now it's just too bad that this sighting was confirmed exclusively by the scientists at the Discovery Channel.